All right, hello everybody. Last week I did that review of the first John Carter book, and someone in the comments, I wrote it down, SCP 1974 A-Class Euclid, nice SCP reference there, um, referred me to a video by another channel called Memovision. Now, this is a channel that is a native Spanish speaker, so if you don't know enough Spanish, you'll have to make do with the English auto dub by YouTube. But I did watch this video a couple times, and ostensibly it's more a movie about the movie, or it's more a video about the movie John Carter flopping back in 2014, I think. I didn't write that detail down. Ostensibly, it's about that movie flopping, but actually, this video is about a lot more. So, go take a look in the description, and there will be a link to this video by Memovision, and I hope you enjoy it. But here's what I thought was cool about it. He did some really, really good research, and he has a lot of clips talking about the influence of Burroughs' Barsoom saga, the Mars saga, on Dune, on DC Comics, including Superman, back when Superman couldn't fly but could only jump, and even the autodub called him Martian Detective, but I think they're actually talking about Martian Manhunter. I'm not a comics expert, so you'd have to double check me on that, but I think that's who they were talking about. And also movie series like Star Wars. So the real gem of this video by Memovision is that he also did some amazing research on the flopping of the Disney movie that nowadays we don't get this kind of data. So I don't know where he dug it up, but he did a great job doing so. First off, he talks about the naming issues. Just calling it John Carter with no reference to Mars or Barsoom or Princess of Mars or anything is a big problem. Sure, I can see that. But then he brings up this data on not just the movie's budget, which we get these days, right? Like you hear that such and such movie from Disney, they spent X dollars on it and their box office total was, Y dollars, right? We get that these days. But what we don't get these days is we don't get the marketing budget, and we don't get the amount of the theater cut of box office returns. So, nowadays we get, numbers X and Y, but back then, or somehow this guy managed to do the research to find the additional marketing costs, which are not usually part of the movie budget that's given to us these days, as well as the cut that they were getting from the actual theaters that were showing this movie, which means that he has a much more accurate perspective on how much Disney lost making the movie John Carter than say we have information on the latest Marvel movie or something like that. Disney doesn't give us those numbers anymore, and there's probably a good reason why. Another thing that Memovision talks about is the subversion of the John Carter character. In the book, John Carter is very idealistic. He's romantic in the Byron, Keats, Shelley, Melville sense, not the Danielle Steele sense. He's idealistic. He's chivalrous. He's inspiring. They took all that out to make the character kind of a bland degenerate in the movie, which of course doesn't really help. He also talks about how the setting is very bland, and even though there's a lot of special effects, which look pretty decent based on the clips that he's showing, he talks about how there's no real like oomph under them. There's nothing really to capture the reader's wonder, I guess is the way to put it. He also talks about some adaptation problems. In the book, everybody is practically naked the whole time. And of course, this won't fly in a modern or 2014 era Disney movie for, probably they're going to aim for PG-13. Probably they're going to avoid the R rating. And so, this is one of those adaptation things where I think you could make those changes and justify them just on the sense that, hey, we want people to actually be able to come see this movie. It's a fun adventure. The nudity isn't really related to the story in any particular way, so we can just kind of shove that off to the side, and people can go read the book. And then he also talks about how the backstories of of the world itself, of Barsoom itself, and also the peoples of Barsoom are not really discussed very well in the movie, and therefore there's no audience investment. And then he also talks about how it's politically incorrect to kind of portray Confederate war veterans in any sort of positive sense. And, these are all really good points. I think he did some great research. one of the points that he makes, the little bit of analysis that he makes that I really liked, was where he was talking about the timeliness of certain books and the ability of the heirs of those books to kind of transfer their core properties into a new medium in such a way that keeps up with changing cultural norms, right? This isn't just political correctness, right? And we could argue about that all day. Political correctness is part of the influence, but if a work written 100 years ago is so different from what you can do, on a movie screen today, then you need to change it. And the more you change a work that you're adapting, the more chances you have to mess it up. On the other hand, if you're not giving yourself the position of the heir of a 100-year-old work, and you're just starting with something that's kind of a inspired reimagining, then you have a little bit more leeway to start from scratch and say, okay, we're going to start based on current cultural norms and happy, joy, right? And then there's one other great thing that Memovision brings out that this quote is great. The quote's in Spanish on the screen in the video, and so I had to go hunt it down. But this is what Ray Bradbury, science fiction writer extraordinaire, in a more modern sense than Burroughs was. He says, quote, "I love to say it because it upsets everyone terribly. Burroughs is probably the most influential writer in the entire history of the world," end quote. And one of the cool things that Memovision does is he compares Bradbury's praise here to Burroughs' stated motivation. He brings this up. He says, Burroughs basically said as he was writing his first book, is like, I read these, all-story magazines and they're just kind of garbage. I bet I can do better than this, and I bet I can get paid for it too. And so, at least at the beginning, Burroughs' motivation was a little bit more monetary than artistic, perhaps. Maybe that changed later on. But the point is that the reason people hate to hear that Burroughs was so influential is simply because he wasn't doing art for art's sake, so to speak. But Bradbury's comment continues, quote, "By giving romance and adventure to a whole generation of boys, Burroughs caused them to go out and decide to become special," end quote. And that's just a great... Bradbury's always good for quotes like that, but, just kind of inspiring, idealistic, fun, and good, and yeah, there's a lot more details in Memovision's video about comparisons to like Star Wars and stuff, of various other media comparisons between Burroughs' Barsoom series and other stuff that is kind of more recent, as well as a lot of good discussion of the characteristics of the movie, which according to Memovision was an attempt to adapt the first two Barsoom books into a movie. And again, apparently Disney lost like $180 million on it. So yeah, pretty bad. Anyway, I just thought, it'd be good to point you guys at this video. It's very hard to post links in YouTube comments. And so when I find a YouTube comment that points somewhere and it's, it's harder for commenters to post links. That's just how YouTube works for whatever reason. I figured this was actually a topic that might be worth doing a quick few-minute video on and just say, hey, here's the video that this comment was talking about. You may have missed the comment. I mean, comments go missing all the time on YouTube as well. We all have the same problem. Yeah, it's a very good video. The English auto dub is reasonable. It's one of those things where I kind of dislike the auto dub, but at least in this case, it actually gets most of the ideas across, although it does mistranslate some of the words. So, the name of the Princess of Mars is Deja Thoris, and the auto dub I think he gets it right one time, and it's calling her all kinds of funky names. So, watch the English auto dub with a little bit of care and thought. But, if you know Spanish, you can just listen to the original and you'll be happy to learn some more about this amazing flop of a movie that probably had a big effect on making sure that these pulps never get, dredged back up again unless people like you and me do something about it. So, yeah. That's what I've got for today. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found this useful. Go check out the Memovision video, link in the description. And yeah, have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time.